So I'm gonna rephrase my intro because today's a little different. Today's a little different. It's time for what is normally the What is Japan saying about blah 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 blah. But today we're gonna be doing something a little different. We're taking a look at the information that was revealed at Korean FanFest, Seoul FanFest. Outside of their obvious release date announcement of like December something or rather, I forget the exact date. So we're gonna be looking at what the aggregate sites such as Umadori have gathered across the Korean FanFest information through the live stream that they did. This time it is pretty much only official sources today, but there are a couple of tidbits from a couple of other Twitter sources and such. But yes, pretty much today is only Korea FanFest, so hopefully this look at what kind of things they announced there will be interesting. I know they had a really good bunch of questions that were really fun for me to go through, and I was really curious about them. So we're gonna actually take a first look at the entire Q&A roundup because I think it's the most interesting. So this is all of the questions and answers that were asked. I don't know if they were all from the same panel or what have you, as I do not understand Korean, so I didn't double check the live stream to know where to look for it. But I believe this is the Q&A session. So this was with YoshiP and Hayashi-san. Not just YoshiP. So some of these questions were for Hayashi-san, and some of them were for YoshiP. They do denote whether or not who was answering for each of those. So our first question here, the question is, I'm really interested in the 13th and 0 story from the 6.x patches. Similar to how we've gotten to see the first again during story, will we be seeing more of the 13th and 0 situation in the future? And the answer is pretty simple. We intend for 14 to continue for a long, long time, so there's absolutely a chance we will at some point see more of the various reflections. Obviously, this is a very vague answer. I think that it's probably not the answer the question asker was hoping for. But I would be curious. There is another question later about the 13th that I was also really interested in. But I'm sure that they will incorporate the other reflections as they see fit and as they fit into the story. Next, they have a question that was for Hayashi-san, saying, there's a lot of different dishes in Final Fantasy XIV. Are there any that when designing you thought, damn, I want to eat that? And Hayashi-san said, this isn't something I made, but the booze that, I think it was booze? The meat bun that 08 looked really good. Also, the tacos Graha was eating in the Dawn Trail trailer we just watched yesterday. Since remember, the Korean FanFest just announced their official release date for their edition of Dawn Trail. So the meat bun that 08, he said he really likes, he thought it looked really good, and the tacos in the trailer looked really good. Next, we have one. Let me find it. I put it on a separate thing for some reason. The question is, I found the fact that Emet's jobs were Black Mage and Dark Knight for Ktisis was really interesting. Is it because he's darkness, essentially? And the answer here was, as of Shadowbringers, he'd be considered the strongest mage. So out of our current day options, Black Mage was an obvious choice. For Ktisis, we had to make sure that players could run the dungeon with trust while on any rule, so we had to decide someone to make a tank, and it was exciting to think of Emet as a tank, rushing forward into battle, so we decided on him. And the story of Elpis, of course, takes place much earlier chronologically than its antagonistic role in Shadowbringers. Shadowbringers ends with a clash between light and dark, so it would make much more sense overall if Emet as a tank also used the powers of darkness. Thus, Dark Knight became the clear choice. Like, if he were a paladin, it would come off as strange for his character. With a laugh at the end. I guess they were kind of maybe hoping for a little more, like, thought or opinions or whatever, but they must just really like Emet. Feels like a question like someone who just really likes Emet would ask. Maybe they would be like, well, how does Dark Knight work in Elpis? You know, because at least I'm sure for some people the idea of like, oh, what did Emet's Dark Knight story, quote unquote, kind of go like? I'm sure for some people that's a very interesting thought exercise. But it sounds like more they were just thinking of functionality, and Emet felt like the obvious choice over Hythlodaeus. Oh man, what kind of tank job would Hythlodaeus take? What kind of tank job? Sorry, did I say health? I meant tank. What kind of tank job would he pick? He probably would consider paladin, right? But then you'd have both him and Vina taking it, right? So, because she did, what, paladin, dancer, and white mage? But anyway, moving on to the next question. This is another question for Hayashi-san. 2 trials will be added with the upcoming, for Korea anyway, expansion. Can you explain how you determine which one to give weapons to? So he starts off saying, item level is first decided based on the recommended item level for the content. With each X-Pack, there are always 2 extremes added, so the sensor level is the same. One gets accessories and other gets weapons. Now, anyway. As for which one gets the weapons or which one gets the accessories, it just comes down to which boss would create a better looking weapon design, as well as asking YoshiP about and the battle team. So, they literally just go which... It sounds like generally they determine which one gets the weapons based on which has the better vibes. Ooh, which one gets the weapon based on vibes? Which one gives them better, like, elements to design a weapon off of? Which I guess makes sense. Plus, I'm sure at least in the case of, for example, Dawn Trail, we'll probably see more fights with the similar elements, as for example Zeralja will, because the whole Solution 9 vibe will probably be included in future extremes. Maybe not every extreme, but at least a future extreme, so that element can be brought back, whereas Valley Garmanda, maybe not as much, for example. And I think that's generally true for other ones as well. I'm trying to think. Titania and... who was the other one? Who was the other one for Shadowbringers, for example? Innocence. Innocence could have made good weapons, but the idea of like a bright gold weapon and like... I can definitely see that Titania was one of the more unique design pieces, comparatively, for example. And with Endwalker, it was down to... I mean, I'm sure that the factor is... Hydaelyn would have been the one that people might have wanted more. Plus, we already had what kind of feels like Zodiac weapons in Hades from the previous expansion. So once again, we get a weapon style that is something that isn't repeated. So, and then was Stormblood the first one they did this on? Yeah, which is such a shame. The Susanoo weapons are fine, but I do really... somewhat disagree with their decision on it, but that was the first time they were including it. It made sense why Lakshmi got accessories, like lore-wise and stuff, but I do think she probably would have made more unique-ish weapons. Obviously, Heaven's Ward was a case of before then. That one was very different. Continuing down, our next question is a question for YoshiP. Where's my window? There it is. Yoshida-san, if you could release any type of merch, which would you want? What would you want the most? YoshiP asked for clarification. Do you mean for myself, like hobbies, or something specifically to sell? And their question, they said for yourself or for hobbies. And YoshiP said, I'd love to work with a snowboarding company and release snowboards, bindings, boots, snowsuits, and such. I occasionally go snowboarding when I have a moment between jobs and can't sleep. And sometimes I'm approached by a warrior of light and we go snowboarding or skiing, whatever activity they're doing. It's not exactly stated in the Japanese. The verb is the same for both. I'd love for one day to have a fan fest near or on a snowy mountain. I'd make sure we could snowboard for at least half a day. Any warriors of light involved with a snowboarding company anywhere in the world, I look forward to hearing from you. That would be pretty cool. I mean, they'd be pretty expensive. That's a pretty luxury type of thing, isn't it? Though, The idea of snowboards and skateboard designs probably would be really cool, right? I think there's a lot of really good art elements that they could incorporate into either types of board. Snowsuits, I think snowsuits, boots, those might be a little more difficult. But definitely snowboards and by extension skateboards as well, I think would have a really good base to work with design-wise to make really cool looking boards and board designs. Do I know how to snowboard or skateboard? Absolutely not. Would I buy any of the merch? No. But it'd be super cool. So if you're out there and didn't hear about this question yet and own or involved in a snowboarding company, have your managers or you reach out to Square Enix. Maybe. Yeah, snow merch would be pretty cool. Yeah. Oh, fun fun like earmuffs or like hats, like gloves and stuff. I think, like the little like beanies would be nice, but they can't. You can't just have slap the 14 logo on it and be done. Like that's boring. You gotta get like a really fancy like detailed knit design in some way. But it would definitely be way more expensive. Next, we have a question for Hayashi-san. How are the fashion check themes decided? There's a group called the Live Company that works on things outside of main story scenario, battle, UI, and such that decide on them. We release them at the same time for global, Chinese, and Korean versions. He says that he once secretly made a jingle jangly theme based on YoshiP, and he got mad at me. Jada jada. that's the phrase. Jada jada. Like I translated it jangly, like the jingle jangle, like the big clunky jingle jangly of like a bunch of keys and like these rings and stuff. That would have been a fun one, right? What do you think would have been included? What kind of pieces do you guys think would have been good for the jada jada theme, the jingle jangly clunky vibe, the YoshiP theme? Chains with rings? Well, like, which item pieces? Which item pieces would have been included, though? Like, okay, you could go with, like, something super basic, like a t-shirt or, like, something that looks like a hoodie or something. But then you have to make sure that you have, like, the ring sets that are maybe, like, a lot of rings. Isn't there that one barred glove, so to speak, from the Evilise raids that has a bunch of rings? To me, like, that's the first thing to come to mind if they were to have a YoshiP theme. Their next question, a very, I don't say silly, but a very normal type question. What are you going to have for dinner tonight? And they said, since it'll be wrap-up for the Seoul FanFest, all the staff will be having dinner together. Che-san is treating us to yakiniku. Next one is about... They want to know about Mount BGMs and how it's decided for Hayashi-san. And he responded, if it's from an EX Trial or Savage, it has to have that Fights BGM for the mount music. When it comes to Mog Station mounts, we pick two pieces, a fun one and a cool one. And then we try it out with the mount and see which fits best. And in the past, we had a BGM to signify if it was non-flying or a flying mount. However, now that every mount can fly, and we don't release mounts that can't fly anymore, that doesn't factor in. Occasionally, Soken-san or Ishikawa-san will say that a certain piece would work well for a certain mount, and outside of those specific cases, we give it a generic mount music. And afterwards, if we receive feedback asking for unique music, we'll ask Soken-san for one. So I guess that makes a lot of sense. I think most mounts, what's the name of the piece for most mounts? I do remember vaguely like, oh, well, this was the flying music and this was the non-flying, but I couldn't tell you which ones are which at the time. I do think I would have wished he would have explained more about, okay, well, what about Savages or EXs that have two pieces? For example, why for Sephiroth did he get the Phase 1 music, right? He got the Phase 1, not the second, or did he get the second? you know, what makes them decide between the phase 1 or the phase 2 music? Is it down to they usually just pick phase 1? Or, like, obviously Sophia had the phase 1 that was the same with all of the Warring Triad. And then she had her own piece, for example. And same with, what's his face? My brain is thinking Zeromus, but that's not who it is. Durbin! Why does Magic Tech Predator not use the 6th theme? Is it in the game? Is the 6th theme already in the game? If it is, I mean, it sounds like if they get enough feedback for something like that, they might change it. It sounds like if there's enough feedback, they may consider. Though at this point, like, if it's an old mount, maybe they won't really. So yeah, it sounds like it's more of a matter of, vibes. At least at the Mog Station, it's always vibes. And then, yeah, I would have been really curious about what makes them decide phase 1 or phase 2. I think generally it's usually a phase 1, but it's not always, right? When it comes to fights with 2-phase musics. Or more, even. I don't know. I don't think there's a 3-phase music change except for Ultimates. Anyway, let's look at our next question, which is one that I think, which ties back to that earlier question. This one is, as Zero and Golbez will work to restore the 13th, will Void Magic still work on the source? This question, when I saw the question, I was like, oh, lore! I was super interested to see what they had said. I'm changing the wrong window. Here we go. I think that regardless of how much progress they make towards balancing the darkness, they won't be able to return it to normal in their lifetimes. They will have to entrust their work to future generations, and eventually the 13th will turn into a world much unlike what it is now. Think of how you carry on the hopes and dreams of the ancients who were hit by calamity. They had to entrust us, you know, the player character. Where I lost my spot. They had to entrust us with the future. 14 as a whole is a story where one must trust their hopes and dreams with future generations. So Zero and Golbez are, of course, in a similar situation. As for the second part, I don't think Void Magic would become unusable. By that point in time, a different type of magic will have evolved and been created, and Black Mages and Void Magic users will change to whatever job that would be. However, that would be much, much further in the future. So the idea is that Black Mages and people who use Void Magic will literally job change, jobu change suru, to whatever type of magic evolves in the future to hopefully not use Void Magic. So I guess by saying this, it's not that Void Magic as it is now won't necessarily exist, but it will evolve into something different. But he says, like, it'll be hundreds, if not thousands of years in the future, so it will never be in gameplay, of course. But I do think that was a really super interesting question. I thought that was a really, really interesting question, because there's a couple of... I think that was the one lore question that brought me in, I was really, really the most interested in. That was the most lore-ish question that I was super interested in reading. The next question is, again, for Hayashi-san. Were there any items you wanted to create but were unable to? And he says that he really likes the design of the primals. So he made armor based on the first 3. I don't know if he's specifically referring to the Heavensward ones. Because there was a Heavensward set that was a tome set and was based off of Ifrit, Garuda, Shiva, and Leviathan. So they used 4 primals to make tome gear. I assume, based on the sentence, that is probably a different design set. But, moving on. I didn't have the motivation to do the others, but I'd like to someday. Unfortunately, the trials are deeply connected to the story, and you can't really just give primal-themed gear like this from random dungeons. So hopefully a fitting situation happens at some point. I've been mulling over this idea for a while, but the other team members don't really share my enthusiasm for it. Maybe it's just something I want, so I'd be curious to hear players' thoughts. And the comment here saying that there wasn't really much of a response for the Korean users? In which case, what the fuck? What? What? Hayashi-san! Hayashi-san! Do not listen to the other dev members. Do not listen to the Korean players. This is a fantastic idea. Oh my god. That's a fantastic idea. I don't know how you fit into the story. I don't care how you fit into the story. Yes! 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 Hayashi-san! 他の開発チームメンバー気にしないで方がいいよ。プライマです。バンシー風の装備をお願いします。Please, it's such a good idea. The Heavensward gear sets that we got, the tome gear sets we got in Heavensward were amazing. They were really cool. The Shiva gear was great. The Leviathan gear was really cool. I was like meh on the Garuda on the Ifrit ones, mostly because they had like, you know, the tank and the Dragoon vibes at the time. But the caster set being Shiva, the caster healer set being Shiva, and the ranged and scouting being Leviathan, like they're really good. I would absolutely love something like this. This sounds great. Who the fuck is like, that doesn't sound that great. Wait, I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand that it'd be difficult to work into the story or how do we like give it to you as a reward, but for crying out loud, it sounds really good. Find some way, please. It sounds so good. That's such a cool design idea. It's such a cool design idea. Do not give up on it, Hayashi-san. Do not give up on it, Hayashi-san. Please make it happen. Yes. Please. It is! Like, heck, try take like primals, but like casual gear. Like, take that angle. Oh my gosh. Not even just the primals, like trial themed like outfits. Like even if you take the casual direction. Oh my gosh, a Titania themed dress? Oh, a Titania themed outfit would just Lakshmi would be pretty cool too, right? And I think Shiva would make a really fantastic set. Ramuh could be fun. I think Garuda and Ifrit would be really cool. I honestly like, oh, they're all really good. The Mugomog set, man. Mugomom set. If we extend it beyond just the Banshee and the Primals, like, Thornton would have a cool set, right? Heidelin gear set! Ugh. But if we want to just keep to, like, the core, there are definitely some really good ones, right? There are definitely, like... There's definitely some really good, like, core ideas there. Hayashi-san, do not give up on that idea. Keep pitching it. Make the design even better. I at least would be very happy about it. And that's one person on your side, buddy. Ultimate weapon set, yeah! Yeah, well, we got something like that, right? Where we got... It was the Proto-Ultima, right? We got the Proto-Ultima gear thingy from the Machrids, right? Like, yeah, do it. Find a way, Hayashi-san. Do it. Do it. Okay, my soapbox. I'll put it away. We'll put. Is that the right way to use that right here? Yeah, we'll put my my bit away. Okay. The next question. I sent this one to Himiko because Himiko really would be interested in this one while I was translating on it. But the question is, there's a book in the 6.55 MSQ you could read in the Nomenon about the birthplace of blue magic and mentioned how it was a beautiful blue-coated valley. Is this due to underground ceruleum? I'd like to visit it with Martin. And YoshiP responded, thank you for really appreciating the Blue Mage characters and for reading the text describing their beautiful homeland. My answer for now will be simple. We are planning a Blue Mage update, so please look forward to seeing if this wish comes true. I believe Hayashi-san has been working on things for it as well. Thank you for the non-answer, YoshiP. Thank you for the non-answer. I mean, there was the Blue Mage bit in the fishing, crafter role quest. So I don't think they're gonna ignore the whole, like, oh, this is the homeland for Blue Mages. I don't think they're gonna ignore it. Well, I guess we'll find out. Martin doing a homecoming? Nah, it's not his home, but pilgrimage again? Because that's what he did the first time. That'd be pretty cool. Martin taking you on your own pilgrimage to the homeland of Blue Mages. That'd be pretty cool. But, of course, probably don't get your hopes up. That's what Himiko was also like, damn. I shouldn't get my hopes up, though. But they were very, I don't want to say dodgy, but he was like, I can't tell you because we're working on it for the patch series. So, Ceruleum and Blue are linked in order of Blue. Yeah, I feel like there was some mention of the Ceruleum, like, somewhere down the line. So, this person's probably right to some extent. They didn't explain it too deeply in their answer. Again, because YoshiP's being cagey. Alright, so our next one is another question for Hayashi-san. I was surprised by how you ride the Ramuh mount. Can you explain the reason behind it? You know what, I should probably show it. Let's go somewhere I can fly. So I'm not actually the best example of this, but tall races will actually stand on his saddle. Lalas just give up. Lalas just fucking give up. They're just like, I'm not gonna see around this fucker anyway. Anyway, his response was, when it comes to mounts, we first decide what it is, and then what riding method suits it. The mount team has a meeting to discuss it. When it came to Ramuh, it was a tough one. The Eden series had a lot of humanoid bosses, so we went with Ramuh since, I mean, he's at least four-legged. Riding him normally would end up with you not being able to see in front of you, so we settled on standing. When it comes to battle content, the battle comes first, and a mount is planned after the fact. So we sort of just hope there's a monster with a wide back to use as a mount. But if you ask me as a wall myself, I like fighting cool humanoid monsters. I like the image that it gives me of the mount team just getting a list of like some sort of like chart of these are the monsters in the savage tier. Pick one, and they just go. And like as they're like pulling the paper out, they're like sitting there like praying, like please, 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 something with 4 legs and a wide back. Like them just like praying that there's a mount, there's something suitable for a mount. You know? That kind of explains the situation with Ramuh, doesn't it? Heck, wait, that explains the entire thing with the Ambystoma, doesn't it? That explains the entirety of Ambystoma, doesn't it? Because what was in that tier? We had humanoid butterfly lady, humanoid innocent like man. We had big spider boss, which maybe they considered but opted against, and blue humanoid guy. Yeah, they were shit out of luck on Adabasios. They were so screwed. No wonder we got the axolotl. No wonder we got the axolotl. The only other option that was in the fight, that was actually in the tier, was the spider boss. That's great. That's why we got Ambystoma. They were kind of grasping at straws for most of Pandemonium, weren't they? You're not complaining, you love your axe. Exactly, I'm not complaining either. I love axe. That was a big driving factor between pushing through P12S. Like, I was not really enjoying P12S to some extent. Like, Pandemonium was one of the weaker tiers, expansions, raid-wise. But that axolotl mount, that kept me going, man. That axolotl mount kept me going so long.
If it wasn't for if it wasn't for Ambistoma, I don't know if I would have wanted to really finish 12. So moving on to our next question. Whew, this one's a story-related one. This one includes story spoilers for Endwalker. When planning for the story, were there any scenes that you expected to impact or, I guess, move players? Were there any that impacted players that surprised you? So YoshiP's response was, when designing and planning scenes, I'm well aware of how every player will take something different from the story, so I don't really put too much attention on how I want a scene to be perceived. That said, I do a lot of adjustments for various scenes, so they stick in my memory. I actually gave feedback for the scene during Endwalker where Llymlaen meets with Moonbreeda's parents 4 times while bawling, so I'd say that scene in particular was good. Llymlaen is a character from 1.0 where he was just kind of this suspicious character who spoke of all the oncoming calamity. And even during ARR, the Primal Fight questline, he's just some weird dude in the Waking Sands that gives you a quest. And since being with the Loporits, if you look into his dialogue, you can see he's really gone through a lot and can express himself a lot more honestly now. I've really grown attached to him as a character. Also, at the end of Endwalker, Ishikawa-san and I spent so much time unsure of what Zenos should say, so that is also something that I remember well. That was definitely a pretty big scene to me, at least. I do remember, it's one of the main ones in Endwalker that made me cry. There were a handful, don't get me wrong. There were quite a few in Endwalker that made me cry. But, that scene in particular did really get to me. Even if, like, I'm not, like, a super into Moonbreeda, or, like, Llymlaen is kind of like a middling to, like, lower tier character for me and my preferences, it was still, you know, it was a very well presented scene. It was a very well scripted and performed and presented scene. But it was very impactful. It was very impactful. There were lots of scenes. I mean, of course, you know, like, I am a crybaby, so I think it was Dawntra got me 7 times. And Walker definitely got me to the point where I got a headache from crying. And Walker gave me a headache and then Shadowbringers, I played through completely twice. And it can make me cry gosh knows how many times. I think it's interesting that he doesn't really, like, he's like, I'm just gonna write them however I gotta write them. Like, he doesn't, like, think, oh, okay, I want players to feel this. I think that's a interesting way to go through writing it. Just write it, you know. He's essentially, I just write it. You know, just make the scene. Just plan the scene. Just, you know, do the scene, and people will take from it what they take from it. You know? I think it's interesting. Our next one is another question that was for Hayashi-san. It's about Minions. I'd like to know about special reactions to emotes from Minions. He says, if I think of one, I add it in, basically. With Palom and Porom, I thought that people would be disappointed if I didn't give them their break animation from FF4, so it was something I felt was needed. Actually, a programmer added in the reactions to /pet and /handover and just brought it to me. I hope you continue to care for your minions. There's a minion group within the dev team that mysteriously doesn't bother to double check things with YoshiP. We do our best to release things that will make players happy, and we keep close eye on what people are saying online. So if you post how much you want something to be, it might just happen. I do think this idea is like, you know, there's this minion team that has the special power to just not even care about YoshiP checks. They just do what they do. I also do like the story of just like, they didn't plan for minions to have a reaction to pet and hand over, and an engine and a programmer just went, here you go, I made them do this. Which is so cute. They were just like, oh, that'd be really cool. Here you go. That's so adorable, isn't it? That's super cute. So I'm happy to see that it's kind of sometimes there really is just like, oh, idea, and then they just do it. And sometimes, you know, they even look at like what people are saying online and go, oh, people want that? Okay, we do that too. We do that. Alright. The next one is back to YoshiP. Has a letter or interaction with a player ever left an impact on you? He says, so many times. Each one is so special and unique, I could never pick a favorite one. From all over the world, I've received letters about how 14 has changed someone's life or how it was there when they needed it. I really appreciate these messages, and they make us on the dev team feel proud. Your own strength is what pulled you out of that situation. 14 was just a small push in that direction. What matters most is your own courage and determination, so I hope you give yourself credit too. And I just want to clarify that it's... I didn't want to write it as like, oh, they were like stuck in despair, because it sounds like a fucking Danganronpa character. But I'm sure you can imagine what is meant when it's like, when they needed it most, you know? And I really like the way that he ended it. It's like, you know, give yourself credit too. 14 wasn't the thing on its own that saved you, you know? And I don't know, like, the fact that he, like, goes from, you know, these all meant a lot, but also, like, give yourself credit too. Give yourself a pat on the back. You know, it was your own strength too. I don't know what to say about it, but I just think it's really meaningful, I guess. I guess that's the word I would use. It's just very, very meaningful response, I think. But moving on. Question for Hayashi-san. Can you tell us about an item that you've designed that was most memorable or interesting to you? And he responded, Bard's first relic, the Artemis bow, is the design I'm most pleased with. For Artemis, it swaps between the harp-like shape and a bow shape, so I feel it fits the whole image of an archer who plays music perfectly. The other ARR relics, I tried to give a real Final Fantasy feel to, and worked closely with YoshiP and other designers to come up with, so they all hold a special place in my heart. I think it's really interesting that he jumped all the way back to ARR. It's just like, yeah, that ARR weapon was the thing that comes to mind. That's... damn, like... 10 years later, and the Artemis bow is still, like, the first thing to come to his mind. That's really cool. I mean, that's some of the ones that, like, really, like, expands out when you unsheath it, right? I think it makes a lot of noise, too. I've never finished an OG relic, though, so I don't even have the Scholar one. And our final question is a silly little lore question. Why is it when you interact with a giant beaver, you become one too? I think this is a question better suited for Oda-san. That said, this is what I, as in YoshiP, think. They're some type of creature from another time, world, or universe. If left to their own devices, they will turn the entire world into beavers. So if you see one, you should ignore it or beat the crap out of it. Once I return to Japan, I will see what the truth is and pass it on to the Korean team to make public somehow, so please look forward to it. For the record, I don't think the beavers are cared about as much in Western Sphere, but Japan in particular really likes the beaver. Likes the giant beaver. And I guess to some extent that extends to Korea as well. The fact that somebody went to asking the question. I'm kind of curious if it will ever actually get, like, brought up. Like, oh yeah, by the way, this is the truth behind the beavers. I'll be really curious to see if that information gets shared in the future. When YoshiP is able to make it public. I guess his thoughts on it pretty much make up what I would think about the beavers. They must be some, like, weird yokai-esque thing that just... it's like a beaver disease. It's a beaver disease. It's a beaver disease. But that was the, pretty much all that was the summary of all the Q&A. I believe that's just from the general Q&A session. But as I mentioned, like, they do have archives available on the Korean Final Fantasy XIV YouTube account. So if you'd like to go through that as well, I'm sure that they probably have some interesting things from their community team, but I do not speak Korean, so... Next... on the more Q&A related stuff, but this one is more, it was brought up during, I think, one of their YoshiP Sampo things. So, Yes, this was a YoshiP Sampo from FanFest. And so they were doing Thalia, right? And so about the development of Llymlaen's Navigator's Dagger, I believe the English is. So, sort of question was, if you /kiss or /hug Llymlaen, she'll smack you with a special attack, Navigator's Dagger. Please tell us more about this. And the response was, it's related to part of the world building, and since there's a piece of content, or rather, since this piece of content allowed us to meet the 12, the programmers and content designers had a sort of game to come up with a way to involve a reaction to an emote that players who know the lore would be able to trigger. This literally was, ha 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 ha, wouldn't it be funny if, based on that one mythology, that one myth where Llymlaen smacked Ashan with a fish, and it became known as the Navigator's Dagger? That if she did that to you, literally, wouldn't it be funny if if we put that in the game and then they did it? But yeah, literally the devs are just like, haha, wouldn't it be funny if we did this? And they went, yeah, it would. And so they did it. That's great. That's fantastic. I'm glad to know that it really was, because I think that's something that a lot of people are like, man, what made them actually think to put that in? And I think part of us is like, maybe they really just thought it'd be funny and just added it in. And there's the confirmation. It really was just, haha, wouldn't it be funny? Wouldn't it be really funny if we did this? And they did it. Good for them. That's awesome. It's honestly, I was like really excited to see this question brought up. I was like, oh, we actually get to know the origin of it, and I love how simple it is. I'm actually perfectly okay with it being so simple as it is, because it just brings joy. It just brings joy to know that they just like, we want to do something fun with the deities. And if you know like the mythology and the lore, because obviously there's hints about this in the game, like it's in the description, if I remember correctly, from the fish itself, that is the name of the attack. So like there's clues to figure it out on your own before everybody now knows about it. It's so cute. It's so great. I love it. I love it. And then as for announcement stuff, I believe this has started to go around now. But they did at least give by name. The field exploration content is named Mirage Island Crescent Isle. As far as a translation from the Japanese name, it will probably just be like Crescent Isle or something in English. And it features pixel art akin to FF5 on their announcement, the FF5 pixel job art on the image. They did not give any more information. They did not give any other information, they just gave it a name. The opinions online were FF5's Crescent Isle had Ronka ruins, so maybe it'll be like Central or South America ruins. Oh yeah, FF5 had Ronka ruins. Wonder if it has anything to do with the first Ronkins? This one was fun to write. Let me in! Are there Ronka ruins? Like imagine that. It gave me that vibe of that one guy like shaking the gate like, let me in! And then someone saying, oh, it looks like it has an FF5 vibe. Hype! So yeah, that is all we know. This image. This is all, as far as I'm aware, they show. This image. That's it. That's all we know. And I'm trusting their translation. But yeah. We'll find out. We'll find out. Finally, some other stuff for Korean FanFest. We had a new glamour set. This is the upcoming glamour set. Oh, let me get the front and back view. I do not know what it's called. Again, I can't read Korean. But this is the upcoming Korean, at least for now, temporarily Korean exclusive glamour set. Obviously, it has a very big Korean vibe. Completely understandable. That's the type of gear that they'll want to include in their version. So when we will get this, we're obviously unsure completely, but eventually it will come overseas as well. Second Secondly, as far as art goes, they also showed some key art for Cosmo Explorer. Or was that what it's called? So we've got a wild Magitech looking thing in both black and white. We've also got this sort of gate. Looks like we're gonna have some sort of mecha hangar going on here. But yeah, we have some sort of robot that we can pilot. And we've got some sort of hangar that we're gonna probably travel out of. This is probably like a out, and this is maybe like in. I guess we will find out what goes on here. But this definitely has, a little bit Solution 9 to it. So perhaps the, maybe not hub, but the travel point will be from Solution 9, maybe? These are definitely not our type of Magitech. These are definitely something different. This is a robot that you can ride. I'm sure it'll be a mount at some point. It'll probably be a mount that you can get, but that's my expectations, of course. Finally, well, not finally, I have a few more. This one is an interview from Famitsu with Discord's CTO. They had an interview with him about the current Discord collab with FF16, where you can get the little Torgal. As for the interview itself, the Famitsu interviewer asked, Stan, we've heard you're quite the avid player of not just FF11, but FF14 as well. How long have you been playing? Stan said, when Dawntrail released, I took a week off. Laugh. I've actually been playing since 1.0, so my character has a legacy mark. Oh wow, that long, huh? And he says, yeah, I've capped all the jobs too. My main is Machinist, but I've been enjoying Pictomancer lately. Famitsu asked, recently there's been an FF16 collaboration quest with Discord. Since you're such a fan of 14, I imagine it might be one you'd like to collab with? Stan said, maybe we'll do a collaboration, but I can't say anything for now. As they say, please look forward to it. I do think it's funny that they wrote it in the English as the way the meme goes. I really, really do hope to some extent that they give us a Discord collab. Personally, I kind of hope it's not a quest. I get it. I get why it might be, but I kind of want something permanent rather than temporary. I kind of want something permanent rather than temporary if I'm gonna get a avatar decoration. I know that means it'll probably cost money, but and I mean, of course, you know, the Torgal one is really cute and it was free essentially. But I do have to admit that part of me would want something permanent, even if it costs me money. But obviously this is a very vague answer. But it does sound like he's at least obviously interested in the idea and would be happy to do it, I'm sure. Next, some Eorzea Cafe shenanigans. Just to go over the drinks, let me open this in a new tab where I can zoom in more. Oh, I can't, never mind. The current limited time menu is the Arcadian with the Black Cat Peach Water. All right. With, let's see if I can squint and read this. It's yellow, text on cream, that's great. Fermented dairy beverage, peach syrup, water, lemon slices, whipped cream, marshmallows, granulated sugar, and gum syrup, if you'd like to try to make it at home. Marshmallows singular, it's this. Next, the Honeybee Lovely Milk, which features honey, milk, wow, custard whipped cream, chocolate sauce, or heart-shaped chocolates, those are the pink ones, chocolate candy, and rainbow sprinkles. Furthermore, 2 more drinks. Where is it? The Brute Bomber Doping Drink, featuring tequila. Alrighty. Tequila black currant syrup, grenadine syrup, soda. Is that cranberry juice? Cranberry fruit, sorry, not juice. And cracking candy, so Pop Rocks. And finally, Wicked Thunder's Electrope Cocktail, featuring white wine, purple haze syrup, fermented dairy beverage, soda, rosemary, strawberry ice, cracking candy, and glowing ice cube. By the way, so it's a special ice cube. So if you'd like to try to make those at home, those are the ingredients, and that's what they look like. Also, of course, they have a special placemat, or poster in disguise. And they're also giving away, oh, these are for the Osaka branch. They are also doing Viper and Pigdomancers. This is available until November 4th, if I'm not mistaken. November 4th. This is available on until November 4th. It's already active right now. And will be running until then in the Akihabara and the Osaka branch. Finally, the other menu that is upcoming, as I'm sure you could guess, is for All Saints Wake. They have not listed out the full ingredients, so I cannot do such yet, but it will start the day after the Arcadia Unlimited Time menu ends on November 11th, and will run until December 9th. And probably following that will be the Christmas, the stars, the Christmas menu. The Christmas menu will start pretty much right after that. But these are the menu items we can see here. They are the All Saints Wake Pumpkin Carbonara, not gratuitous. Gratitude-filled cookie parfait. That's what we'll go for now. The Good Luck Saints Wake drink. I guess it's this one. And the White Pumpkin Cocktail, which is this one. The White Pumpkin Cocktail is alcoholic, whereas the Good Luck drink is non-alcoholic. But yes, they do not have an actual menu image yet, so we don't know what the ingredients are for the drinks, as those are usually posted on those. They've not listed the ingredients, so unfortunately I can't be like, go make them yourselves, because that's not a thing you can do yet. But anyway, that is all of the things I have for this week. If you are watching in the YouTube video later, tell me what piece of information was most interesting to you. I definitely think mine were the lore-related questions. I definitely think the Void magic question was probably the most interesting for me to see, as I like lore. It's nothing too surprising, but I really did like seeing it. And I thought that there were some really fun little like tidbits in terms of how they design things, how they pick things out, like about mounts and mount music and minions and such. And once again, Hayashi-san, please give us the primal designed gear. Please, 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 please. Anyway, but that's all we have for this pair of weeks. If you are watching through the YouTube video, I'd appreciate it if you like this. Please give it a like. Maybe give a subscribe. I try to do this every 2 weeks, every other week, and I record live on Sunday on stream, where I both stream both on YouTube and Twitch. And I stream almost every day, mostly playing Final Fantasy XIV, but I play other games as well. And with that, I will see the YouTube video crowd next time. Oyasumimi, bye bye. Okay, I gotta hit the record button now. Bye.